learning about, learning what this is about. And I just wanted to take you through some of the stuff, some of the stuff around empowered women, empowered lives. And I thought what I would do is I would go through this PowerPoint presentation with you. I appreciate that it's a bit difficult because I'm normally used to actually engaging with people who are sitting in front of me. So going through a webinar just brings a couple of other little difficulties, but never mind. So welcome, and I thought what we would do is we would start by just a little bit of an introduction. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. If, as we go through this webinar, if you've got any questions, please feel free to chat them to me, and I'll answer them as I can as we go through the program. But welcome anyway. So the questions are, I have some questions when I was thinking about this presentation for you. What would it take? What would it take for you to feel really good about yourself? Another question, what would it take to be resilient and able to bounce forward when life throws you a curveball? Note I use the word bounce forward, not bounce back, because often people think about resilience as about bouncing back. And I think it is on one level, but it is also about bouncing forward. So when life doesn't work, that you're able to pick yourself up and keep going. To be able to be self-confident at all times, never doubting yourself or what you do. To be able to communicate fantastically well without fear, largely your own, stopping you from achieving your potential. And to be in a great relationship or great relationships, have a wonderful job, awesome friends, and to be an empowered woman living an amazingly empowered life. Now, some of these questions might seem a bit strange to you, maybe not. But the reason why I've actually asked you this is because in so many situations where I'm working, particularly with women, I find a lot of them have issues around these kind of questions. Low self-confidence, lack of self-esteem, often struggle with communication. And an example would be when they are in the workforce, they don't stand up for themselves. They rather let other people, particularly their male colleagues, take the jobs that they want. Excuse me, they don't necessarily stand up for themselves. I think at this point, what I do want to say, because it's an important point of this program, is that this program has been written by a woman for women. And when I say that, I think the important thing is that there's no issue here around, we are women and we are against men, or men are an inferior race, etc. I have some fantastic men in my life. Wonderful, loving men. This is not about that. This is about really working with the women in my life and the women who I haven't had the privilege of meeting yet, and really looking at how I can help a lot of women with whom I work or haven't yet met, as I said, turn their lives around. So this is what Empowered Woman is about. And really what my experience is over the time, if you're able to follow the program, and I'll explain the program to you in a while, and how I came to write the program and why the program has become as impactful as it has become. And I'll explain that. But if you follow it, basically what it teaches you are aspects around self-confidence as a woman, resilience. You learn how to bounce when life is hard. A lot of the women that I work with or have worked with or I come across in my daily work struggle with things around resilience. Emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is an interesting concept which seems to be, the kind of key word of the day, but really it's been around since the dawn of time. And really emotional intelligence is about you as a woman being able to manage your emotions well so that you have fantastic relationships around you. And I think sometimes as women we do it well, but a lot of the time we don't. And I think that's attached to our frustration around how we assert ourselves and our ability to communicate with those around us. Goals, get to know where you want to go and how. I find a lot of the women that I work with or deal with is they don't really have goals, or they think they do. They're not sure, they haven't thought about it for a while. Or one day when I have the chance, Karen, and the time, then I will sit down and I will work out what my goals are. And really, if you are going to become empowered, part of that is around working out where your direction is and where you want to go. Because if you don't know where you want to go, how on earth are you going to be able to get to that place? So goals is one of the outcomes. We talk a lot about excellent communication skills that help you both at home and at work in the program. And I think there's many, but the key skills would be things like active listening, empathy, being assertive, and also I think the ability to ask questions, good questions. Essentially, ultimately, a happier, more confident you. Now, that happier, more confident you, some people might say, well, that'll take you a lifetime, and maybe it will, maybe it won't, but certainly the way that the program has been designed is to give you some key skills and I guess some greater understanding about you as women and insight into what it is that you want to do in order to become more empowered. So who am I? Just a little bit of an introduction. I won't stay here too long, but my name is Karen Walsh. Obviously, I coach women. I have coached women for many, many years, over 25 in fact. I run a business. I do international leadership consulting, so I work all over Australia. I work in Africa and I work in my beloved Fiji. And I've been working in Fiji for 5 years now. I'm an executive coach. I've been lecturing at university for many, many years in psychology, largely. I'm a psychologist by training, and as I said, I work on 3 different continents. I have a deep connection with and passion for women, really, growing women at all levels. And I'll explain a little bit about my background in a moment, but I have a deep connection to women because one of the things I think is that as women, we don't necessarily thrive in our lives as much as we could or we should. And in part, that's about, I suppose, the Empowered Women, Empowered Lives program. I basically help women lead lives they were born to lead, free from fear and limiting beliefs that they will never get to where they want to go. And I talk a lot about this on the program when we run the program. Over the years, I've worked with families, marriages, and individuals. I say over 20 years, but actually it's longer. It's probably closer to 30 years. In 2006, I worked with 604 marriages. It doesn't just mean that I worked with marriages in that one year. I do a lot of work with marriages over many years, but that particular year was the year where I just seemed to work with so many marriages. And it is around, in part, teaching couples to communicate well. It's also about teaching women to be heard in their marriages or their relationships. It's also about teaching couples to negotiate conflicts and also to be able to create harmonious homes and family lives. And then I write ebooks, I write columns, I do a lot of motivational speaking, so I speak at conferences, I speak at forums, I write newspaper articles and columns. So that really gives you a little bit of an understanding about me. For those of you who don't know me well or don't know me yet, I can see some of you on the line, the names I know, some of you, 2 of you in fact, I know fairly well. But I think at the outset, I just wanted to mention something about this program. The Empowered Women, Empowered Lives program, initially I wrote out of the background or against the backdrop of domestic violence. So I have been working with domestic violence for 20 years, 25 years now. I was lecturing around domestic violence at university, and I also in 2005 helped the Australian federal government set up the domestic violence hotline. And what I have noticed with many, many women in suffering domestic violence is that many of them are in relationships, some of them are in relationships where they're being abused and don't know it, but characteristic across all of those women and their experiences are the things I mentioned earlier: low self-esteem, lack of self-belief. Some of them even came to believe that they deserved the abuse that they got. Really, I guess in many ways, a woman without a voice. And I got really concerned over a long period of time about that because as I've said to you now on a couple of occasions this evening, I'm a firm believer in women and what we do and how we do it and the value we bring to our lives and our families and our nations, really. And so when I first wrote the Empowered Women, Empowered Lives, it was for survivors of domestic abuse. And I've actually run the program on many occasions in that context. But over the last year or so, I've changed it to be more focused on just women who are struggling with their lives overall. So not necessarily in a bad relationship or difficult relationship, but who struggle with low self-esteem, confidence, who tend to take things really personally and are very self-defeating in their own thoughts. So I think for a lot of women that I know and work with, we are our worst enemies. We are our own worst enemies. We put ourselves down and we criticize ourselves. And so the Empowered Women, Empowered Lives is about really changing all of that. A little bit about my life. I won't stay here too long, but this is what I do. This is my family. I'm very family orientated. I love my family dearly. That's my dad over there. These are all my family. That's my daughter. That's my extended family. And here are my 3 children with me. I love to travel when I can afford it, although I hate flying, so a little bit confused, but very family focused. And I love being part of a clan, if you like, a family. These are some of the lovely people with whom I work. I see there's some of you on the line you might even recognize yourselves in these photographs, but these are my sisters really largely, and some of my brothers, but sisters and brothers in Fiji, some in the Australian community sector. I work all over Australia and I've done work in Africa. So very much a long experience with working with women over many continents, over many, many years, and thoroughly love what I do. So my work with women, I coach and train thousands of women over 25 years across 3 continents, and what I found is that many look like one of these when I first meet them. So I thought I'd bring in a bit of fun into the presentation. Some of it's fun, some of it's not, but maybe you can see yourself in here. So do you ever feel like that? Like it's all too hard, it's all too difficult, and can I just stop this rat race? I want to get off. Or do you feel like that? Do you sometimes feel as if your life's upside down and which way is up? And I must say there's certainly sometimes where I feel that way, but I think it's a gorgeous picture, particularly for cat lovers. Again, it's like, it's just, where do I start? Where do I go? Where do I turn? How do I become more empowered? The stress is killing me. I don't feel as if I'm making a point, or I'm not sure as if I'm being listened to. I think that photograph says it particularly well, and I'm sure all of you, if not most of you, have actually experienced that before. Well, this is a bad hair day, ladies, where we wake up thinking, why me? Why am I doing this? I don't actually want to get out of bed. I want to stay in here because everything is going to go downhill from today. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you all know exactly what this feels like, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the computer. It could be the couch. It could be the library book. It could be the wall, but just lots and lots of stress, and sometimes, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm sure that all of you on the line whom I can see would be feeling this way sometimes. There you go. I'm so sad of trying. I'm sorry, I'm so tired of trying. I try and I try and I try and I don't seem to get anywhere. So eventually you become tired and jaded. And yep, that's me sometimes, probably a couple of times a year. And probably this one is one of the ones I thought was most powerful, which my life just doesn't work anymore. No matter what I do or where I go or how I try, I just can't seem to kind of get it right. So if any of you feel that way, I guess that's what I'm really talking to you about tonight. So what are we going to do about your life not working anymore? I wanted to also say at this exchange right now that this program, as I said, whilst it came out of DV, it's now aimed at women who just struggle with women issues overall. It can also be adapted for women in business, but it's not specifically focused on women in business. It's focused on women in their lives overall. So I guess it's what you would call a self-development program, but it can be adapted. So once I've helped them become an empowered woman with an empowered life, they look more like these. So no matter what age, here we go. Happy, a sense of confidence, a sense of zest, a sense of enthusiasm. And I thought I'd throw this one in because this one is probably my favorite picture, that. So I'm not sure how many of you are that age, and I don't probably presume any of you are, but how amazing would that be to, I mean, what would she be? 85, 90 maybe? And how amazing would it be to be able to do the splits like that? So I guess that photograph is about putting energy back into your life, putting a bit of zing, putting a bit of enjoyment, and getting away from the humdrum of everyday life. So a little quiz for you, ladies. So I want you to score yourselves out of 10 for each of these questions. So grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper if you can. And we won't stay here too long. It's just a bit of a fun question. But out of 10, how happy are you in your marriage or your partnership? Now, if you don't have one, that's okay. Then I'm going to ask you this question. How happy are you in your relationship with you? So how happy are you with you? Okay, so 10 means that you're really happy and 1 means that you're really unhappy. How happy are you with the job you're in? So 10 is I love my job and it's so great to get out of bed and go to work. And 1 is I hate my job and I want to stay in bed. How do you score regarding the way you see yourself overall? So do you think I'm really happy with myself? I accept myself, warts and all. I know I've got a couple of problems. I'm not, I'm not perfect. I'm a human being, but overall, I'm happy to be me. What's your score? How confident are you within yourself? So if you had to walk into a group of people and nobody knows you and you've got to introduce yourself, how confident are you? Or you've got a presentation to do. Maybe that's a bit unfair because everybody's scared of that, right? But overall, as a human, are you confident or do you doubt yourself a lot? So what would your score be between 1 and 10? How do you handle conflict? So overall, do you tend to run? So we call them flee. You flee from conflict. Or are you somebody who tends to be quite aggressive in conflict? So you come out sort of guns a-blazing. Or are you somebody who tends to be calm and handles conflict well? Now, obviously, you don't need to answer these questions in any other way other than the truth because nobody's going to be asking you for the answers. So I think to be honest with yourself here is really important. How do you manage stress? So are you somebody who can just be really good through stress or do you find that you struggle with it? Do you get anxious or fidgety or aggressive? And I think some of you might say, well, don't we all manage stress badly? No, we don't. Some of us manage stress particularly well. So how do you manage it? And the last one is how resilient are you? So when life doesn't work for you, are you able to pick yourself up and keep going? Or do you find that you take things really personally and it takes you a longer time to get over things and a longer time to get yourself, gather yourself towards yourself and keep going? So if any of you want to, at this stage, ask a question or if you've any of you got any sort of comments around this particular little quiz and you think, oh, wow, I'd like to know more about this or anything that you want to comment on around the quiz that might be an aha moment. Well, I didn't think about that, but actually, Karen, I don't handle stress very well or I actually don't think I'm as confident as I could be. Please feel free to pop it into the chat box now. Okay. So I'll move on to then three common problems women I work with generally tend to have. And I think that the comments that I'm going to make now are not, when I was asked what is the age group of this program, it really goes from 18 at this stage to 60, maybe even older. The reason why I say that is because as we move forward with the program, I might hold some programs with women of different ages depending on who wants to do the course, because some of you might be younger people, some of you might be older people, and so it might be important that I break it down into different age groups. But anyway, the general three common problems women I work with are relationships that really don't work well. So there's a whole range of reasons why people struggle with relationships, but generally relationships that when I'm working with women, they struggle with not happy at work, but too scared to do anything about it. So they might be bullied, they might be harassed, they might be overlooked for promotion time and time and time again. So they're not happy at work. And the last one really is, I have nothing to offer. In some way, the last one is the most difficult because it's often there where a woman has a struggle around self-esteem, self-belief. Well, why would I try and get into that job anyway? Because nobody's going to give me the job. I'm never going to get the job because he's always going to be better than me. He's always going, often what I mean by that is that we know that women are very much often overlooked with regarding, promotion, etc., etc. So it is about, so what can you do about that? I'm just having a look at some of the questions. Love the bad hair day pick. Yes. Just bear with me. I'm just extending the box. Okay, just go through it. I guess I'll go back. I'm just having a look at the questions, ladies, which is what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, love the bad hair day pick. Love the quiz. Makes me think that when you're sick, the score is tricky. I think when we're off, color, it's always tricky. But overall, I think the questions were, how are you overall? Do you mean work relationships or way our own personal relationships impact? I'm presuming that's regarding crappy relationships. Well, I was actually talking about on that particular point around personal relationships. But, I think in many ways we cannot, as women, separate our personal relationships in many ways from our work relationships because they impact each other. But specifically on this occasion, I was talking about personal relationships. Okay, so I have nothing to offer is where I see a lot of women, we just don't stand up for ourselves. We don't feel that we've got a lot to offer. I think for a lot of the time, women in work, because of the biological calling of going to have children, we check out, we tune out, which is a whole nother discussion. But what that means is that then we take our foot off the gas. And so often when I'm working with women at work, I say, keep your foot on the gas until the day you have to leave. So those three things are really important. Let's just very quickly talk about a crappy relationship. In a relationship that is not working or is abusive, and abusive and not working isn't mutually exclusive. Feel trapped and alone and uncertain what to do in that relationship. And I think a lot of the time women stay in relationships for a whole range of different reasons, even when it's not working. Those could include children, finances, feeling, lacking in confidence, etc., etc. Often torn. Do I stay? Do I go? What do I do with the children? What do I do with, the pets? All those kind of questions. Financially dependent on the people with whom they are in the relationship. Stay because you're scared to leave. Now, when I'm saying crappy relationship, I'm not saying necessarily abusive relationships, ladies. Some people will not leave relationships that might not be abusive, but they might not be working just because they don't have the courage, I guess, would be to leave. So they're scared. And, are any of these you? So crappy relationship for all those reasons. Quickly tell you about Gail. And Gail was a lady, a lovely woman I worked with, but Gail was relying on what she called a man plan. So Gail was in a relationship that really wasn't working. It wasn't part of her plan. The man with whom she was living wasn't working. The relationship wasn't working. And yet what was interesting with me and Gail was that even though the relationship wasn't working, she would work harder to make the relationship work. And the harder she worked to make the relationship work, the less it worked. So Gail was really, really struggling. It became quite abusive over time, but she stayed anyway. And as I say, she had financial dependence on him, which was interesting because he wasn't working a lot of the time. And actually, in my empowering of Gail, it turned out that really it was more him having a financial dependence on her than she on him. The relationship was going nowhere. Eventually, he made her go bankrupt. She got depressed and ended up in a rehab clinic. So when I met Gail, she was in all a very disempowered young lady and a very unhappy young lady. And I don't know if any of you relate to some of that or all of that, but again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them through. Problem number 2 might be you're not happy at work, in a job where you feel stressed and zoned out all the time. I see more women stressed now than I think I've ever seen in my life before. There's more incidents of young females, by the way, between 15 and 19 who are struggling with anxiety disorders than ever before. So I think the world is a stressy place. I think that women carry immense burden in the world. You know, mothers, taxi drivers, cooks, bottle washers, etc., etc. And a lot of women I meet are not happy at work, exhausted, overwhelmed, and tired. How many of you, here's a question, how many of you wake up in the morning exhausted? How many of you wake up thinking, I can't believe I've got to get out of bed today? If any of you do, please flick me through a question or make me realize that all the time. Thank you, Yvonne, all the time. How hard is that? I mean, it's the hardest thing, knowing that you've got to get your body through another 8 hours thinking, I'm exhausted. Very, very difficult place to be. Here you go. That's me, always tired, Joe. You're always tired. And have you ever thought why you're always tired, ladies? Is it just that, you know, you work too hard, you do too much? Or a male colleague who does the same job gets $30,000 more per year than you do? Any of you had that experience? So you work harder sometimes, maybe harder all the time, but no matter how hard you try, you don't get recognized for your efforts or what you do. So you're tired, you work too hard, and you still don't get the runs on the board. And you say to yourself, I'm so darn over this. This is just crap. I've had enough. Is this you? Sounds like there's some of you that are in this boat. Okay, then the Sam story. I'll quickly share something with Sam. Sam came to see me a while ago. She works hard. She puts in longer hours than all of her peers. Lovely, lovely lady, about 45. She's got the same qualification and a lot more experience than the male colleague, but he got promoted, so he got the job. And she, you know, she's always the last one to find out what's going on at work. And promotions come and promotions go, but Sam never gets them. And she got really, really disillusioned, powerless, and exhausted. And again, I'm not describing this to you because it's an issue of male versus female, but the reality is that we as females get 17% less pay, 17% less pay than our male counterparts for the same job. So Sam was saying, well, Karen, what's the point? I might as well just go and live in the mountains. Well, there is a lot of point. The point is that Sam is a very, you know, disempowered, frustrated young woman. But is this you? Problem 3, I've got nothing to offer. So you're your own worst critic. You tell yourself you're stupid, you'll never get the job. I'm not good enough. I'll never achieve that. You seldom put your hat in the ring because you feel you'll fail. In other words, you sabotage yourself before you even try. And you feel frustrated and angry with yourself or sad a lot of the time. So is that you? And I don't feel tired when I get up. I actually get up very early every day, Rebecca, this is, but I'm always feel anxiety if I don't work harder. I will not be able to stay top of the game anymore. Well, that's really interesting because why? There's this huge, huge thing around work-life balance. And so I think work-life balance and really organizations today, it's about working smarter, not harder. And I think one of the things around working smarter, not harder, ladies, is the ability to get things done, but not to kill yourself in the process. It's exhausting. And so I think that's a really important point that we can talk about, Rebecca, down the track. And Celia makes a really interesting point that in WA, thanks for joining us, Celia. In WA, the discrepancy is even worse than the 17%. You're saying that you have to work 21 days longer per year to get the same equivalent remuneration. Well, that just, to me, smacks of lawlessness. It's insane. And what is that? Where's the legislation around, gender equity and fair work practice in the workplace? So I think the reason I raise those things is because the three main issues around women and disempowered women, and why people, or why women that I work with feel so disempowered all the time. Sometimes you can work smart and people keep giving you more work to do. Well, that's an interesting thing, because what will happen is that you start becoming the savior in the workplace. Well, we'll always rely on Yvonne because she's really good. So we'll just load the workhorse. And ultimately, if we load the workhorse, well, what happens is a lot of the people around the workhorse do less, and the workhorse has worked harder. One of the things around that, I think, Yvonne, is a really important point around what we call boundaries at work. It's also about being assertive. It's always about standing up for yourself to say, hold on a minute, I'm happy to do my job and more, but I'm not happy to be a workhorse. And it is about valuing yourself. And I know that some women I work with say, well, if I don't work hard, I'll get fired. Well, that's a whole nother discussion, because if you're in a workplace where they don't value your quality input and they want to fire you because you're not the workhorse, then on some level, even though it's difficult at the time, it is about trying to work out whether you're actually in the right culture. Do you really want to work in an organization like that? But I think you raise a really good point, Yvonne. Thank you. So Sue's story, I won't bore you. Sue was told she was fat as a child. She was told that her school marks were never good enough. She didn't even think about going. She was told to forget about going to university because she should get married instead. And really, I think what we as women do is we deal with a lot of stereotypes. Stereotypes around, well, don't worry about the education. Go and get married and have children and he can earn the money. And no matter how many women I work with, and I say this to my own daughter, I have 3 children, I say to her, Ashley, she's 25, I want you to promise me that no matter what you do in this life, you go out, you get an education, whatever that may be, and you carve a life for you where you become dependent on you. So that the thing around this, ladies, is that as long as you are dependent on somebody else, it leaves you vulnerable. It leaves you in a place where you're always going to be at somebody else's, not necessarily beck and call, but it leaves you vulnerable. So I work with the lovely Alison, who's actually sitting in front of me, or sitting with me right now. And Alison's got 2 daughters, 4 and 5. And I say the same thing to Alison, even though your children are bubs, Alison, they're little girls, teach them to be resilient and teach them to be empowered, to go and get an education, because I believe education is part of, not entirely, but part of empowerment. Sue believes she's still overweight. She works as a checkout girl, she tells me. She wants to go to study at uni but can't because she told me when she came to see me and go on the program that she wasn't clever enough. So these are the stories. I'm sure you can relate with some of the items in each if you can. If you can't, and you're a woman on the line here who's really, really empowered and who has everything going for her and is very confident and resilient, it's just wonderful to have you here anyway. And Sue was frightened, scared, and depressed. So the pinnacles of empowered woman. Oh, Oprah, don't you love Oprah? On the right-hand side is wonderful. Guess who she is? Well, nobody's spoken to me. Nobody's told me who she is. That's J.K. Rowling's. And she was on a train with her, I think it was a 2-year-old son at the time. And I was reading her book the other day about they were on the pension, they had no money. And she came up with the idea of Harry Potter on the train. And the rest is history. The Malala lady at the bottom of the page is the one who the Taliban, they burnt because she was fighting for girls' education. And they grabbed her and they, I don't think they burnt her actually. I think they stabbed or they shot her. They shot her in the head, that's right. And because she was wanting education for girls in her country. So 3 really empowered women. So let's get you there, regardless of your age, regardless of where or how or who, let's get you there. So why this program? Well, I think I've sort of made that pretty clear. Can we read this out? Because I can't read this. The program really helps you look at who you are and what works in your life and what doesn't. And not in a threatening or a difficult way, ladies. It's just a really, really frank, practical way of assessing where you are, to increase your sense of self-belief and confidence to do things you never dreamed you would. I think that's a very important part of empowerment, to help you have good relationships around you that are satisfying and happy. One of the things I just quickly will say is that sometimes when we need to have good relationships around us, we also need to realize that if we don't have good relationships around us, maybe we are part of that problem. And this program is around looking at that sort of stuff and putting strategies into place to fix it. We're not perfect. To give you clear direction to create a happier, more empowered you, and to change you, your life, and your path forward. And so those are the real key outcomes of the program. Quick thing, I'll tell you what happened with Gail. I worked with Gail about 2 years ago. Gail and I worked through her story. So the program is divided into 12 stages. Well, I'll explain to you just now. Gail worked, and I've divided into 3 major areas for you tonight. She was stuck on stage 1. She now runs 2 successful small businesses. She met a loving new partner who's just lovely. I actually met him. She brought him over. She's now guiding young female entrepreneurs in their businesses, and she's absolutely turned her life around. And if you struggle, I wonder whether a program like this can help you, like it did Gail. Gail says that the work that she did on herself and actually really turning her life around and became empowered has changed her life. What happened with Sam? Well, Sam worked through stage 2. She was stuck in stage 2. She now stands up for herself in work. She knows exactly what she wants to do. She actually went and got a law degree. In fact, she finishes her law degree, to be technically correct, in June this year. And this was a woman who reckoned that she would never do anything. She wasn't worthy enough, and she would not be smart enough to study at university, although she wanted to. She does not take mistreatment. She's very assertive. She stands up for herself. She won't be bullied at work or in her personal relationships. She runs her own small law firm together with a lawyer who is actually qualified. And she's just turned her life around completely. And I'm just wondering, depends on what your story is, are you in a situation that you need help similar to Sam? And then with Sue, we had a really great stuff with Sue. She was stuck in stage 3. She was really critical of herself, and part of the program was turning her from a critic to a supporter, where she starts to support herself and acknowledges the things she does well and accepts those things she doesn't do well, and if she doesn't do things well, what she can do to improve what she doesn't do well, particularly around those things that are impacting her empowerment and her ability to live well. She went to university. She studied childcare. She now runs a couple of girl empowerment groups, as she calls them. So she's working with girls between 7 and I think it's 14 years of age. So she's teaching them the stuff, teaching young girls what I taught her as a young woman. She's a coach to younger women. It should be woman, E-N, not A-N. And is Sue's story what you want? Is it, would you like to turn your lives around in some way, shape and form? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the program and what is involved in the program. So the program there's 12 major stages in the program. And essentially what we do is we go through each of them systematically. As we go through them, there's lots of practical things, there's lots of activities, there's lots of questionnaires. Sometimes I'll give you some research to do. Sometimes I'll give you some things to write. So it's very practical. Stage 1 is all about you. So your story, how you feel about you, really how you value yourself. It's about how you are, I guess, in relationships. Are you trusting of others? Do you find love difficult? Or do you feel safe in relationships? Do you feel empowered? And if you don't, then why not? And what can we do about turning that around? Stage 2 is all about communicating and connecting with confidence. So it's around building your self-belief. It's about connectedness, ladies. It's around creating relationships around you. But in order to do that, you also have to learn to have a great relationship with yourself. I think that's a really important point that I make, because often we want to have good relationships with others, but it's very difficult to have good relationships with others if you hate the relationship you've got with you. So we do a bit of work around that. We also talk a lot about emotional intelligence. So I teach you about emotional intelligence and what that means and how to achieve it. And emotional intelligence, when I started, is not a fad. It's not a new thing. It's really about the ability to manage your emotions well and to express your emotions productively. So by definition, emotional intelligence is the ability to manage your emotions well and those of others. So for example, if you're in a conflict, to not lash out and to get angry or to withdraw and never resolve the conflict, but to hold your emotions in check and to think things through, walk away and come back maybe in time the next day and think the thing through and resolve it calmly. And then we get into really stage 3, which is about your purpose, managing stress and increasing your resilience. So we talk about your stress in a challenging world. We talk about resilience and what it is, and mastering the art of bouncing forward. And as I said when I started, it's also about creating goals. What do you want to achieve in this time called life? So what could be your short-term goals, your medium-term goals, your long-term goals? And then we finish off with reflection. So how on earth am I going? So we'll do a couple of exercises and to assess where you're going, and then putting strategies and plans into place to this continuous process of improvement in your life, to give you direction and to give you support around what it is that you want to do. So those are the 12 stages broken into 3 main areas. I haven't listed each of the stages here because I thought that I'd rather just outline the program very briefly to you. But as we go, and if you do choose to enlist on the program, then you obviously will get involved in more of the stages. So Empowered Women, Empowered Lives, we do it online through our Teachable School. It's really interesting. Alison and I have been putting the online program up. We struggled with some of the uploads this week, so what we're going to do is we'll have it available for you by the end of the week, and we will send you the information if you would like to know more about it. We're also offering a face-to-face program. Now, when I say offering a face-to-face program, I've been offering a face-to-face program for years. This program has been updated, and as I said when I started, to more focus on women who struggle with life overall. It's 9 face-to-face days. We do 3 online, so 9 plus 3. It's spread over 10 months, and it starts July this year or end of June. We're not exactly sure, and will probably end in February 2016. Just one of the things I wanted to say is that you will receive articles and readings and questions between each session. So you get workbooks and you get activities and exercises between each of the sessions so that you can keep your learning going and so that you can still start your empowerment process and keep it running, even though you might not be either online or you might not be on the face-to-face program. So the thought was to actually do the program on a Saturday. We've been asked to run the program on a Saturday, and the reason why is because then it doesn't interrupt with family time and also with just working arrangements. But there might be some of you that a Saturday doesn't suit. We're also open to doing it maybe some nights a week. The program format might be a little bit fluid at the moment because really we want to get some feedback from you. But overall, that would be the general thrust, because we can't do a full day during the week. Most of you are working, so we were thinking Saturday. Okay, Empowered Women, Empowered Lives. So if it's so easy, why is everybody not doing it? That's my family. Those are the 3 generations of my family, myself, my sister, my mum, and my daughter. Why don't we do it? Why aren't we empowered ladies? Because we're too busy. We're too busy trying to survive life. We're too stressed trying to get through each day. We're too overwhelmed. What do I have to do next? Which is why, Joe, I think you were saying you're probably so exhausted. Sometimes directionless, like what am I doing? I remember years ago going into the kitchen, cooking dinner and thinking, why am I in the kitchen? Why am I standing in the kitchen? The pot's on the stove, if people are waiting for dinner, and that really is the overwhelm, the stress, the too busy. We just don't have the time. Well, here's something I want you to write down if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, because I think it's an important, I call it a pearl. And this is it. If you don't make time for you, nobody else will do it. So if you don't make time for you, nobody else will do it. That's the first pearl. The second pearl is that I know we've got children, some of us don't. I know we've got partners, I know we've got commitments, but I want you to think about this, that I want you to write down, I am the single most important person in my life. Because if you don't look after you, nobody else will. And what I mean by that is the kids will take your time, the partner will take your time, the parents, everybody wants a chunk of you. And part of empowerment is actually about becoming more selfish. So we don't spend the time looking after ourselves or growing ourselves large. I mean, I'm talking overall, women. Some of us do, but generally because we're so busy doing, giving and providing that we don't create space for ourselves in our own lives. And then we wonder why we get to 65 and we're not empowered. Where did the time go, Karen? Well, the time went on everybody else. So many women are not living life to its full potential or even reaching their true potential. And I don't want you to have that problem. Seriously, ladies, I see too many ladies, too many women who are exhausted, tired, all the reasons I've given you, and just unhappy, like they've lost their zest or they've lost their zing, or maybe they never had it. And I think it's time to change that. So one of the questions I want you to think about is your why. Like, what do you want? Why do you want it, and how will you get it? So I think one of the key things around becoming empowered is work out what your why is. What is it? I'm just going to answer Celia's comment. Yes, everything to everyone, Celia, absolutely. Because we're thinly stretched, and as long as everybody else is fine, then we're fine. And then what happens is, right, we do a full day. We provide services at work or at home with the kids. We do the shopping, the cooking, the cleaning. We do the bed, we do the linen, and then we get into bed, and then we're also prepared or supposed to be performing. And I don't mean that to be cheeky, but I'm just giving you the reality as it is. It's like, where are we? Where's the space for us? So what's your why, ladies? What is your why? What do you want? Why do you want it? And how are we going to get it for you? How will you become empowered? Like, what is the plan? If I had to ask each and every one of you individually, and there's a whole stack of you on the line here tonight, what's your plan? Maybe 2 out of you might know a kind of plan, sort of, perhaps. But the majority of us are just basically, as I said, trying to get through each day. There is no real plan. And basically, if you are a happy you have a happy life. But you can't be a happy you if you're too busy making other people happy at your expense. So you can't be happy when everybody else is getting a bar of you. Okay, so before the program, this is your way of thinking stops you from doing many things. Too tired, too busy, too stressed. Not all of you, but some of you feel bad about you most of the time. Too fat, too inefficient, too stupid, won't get there, I'll never get the job, what's the point? You're unsure about your direction maybe and feel lost. What should I do? Where should I go? How should I get there? At times you don't know who to talk to or which way to go. Now you might be some of these ladies, or you might be all of them. If you're reading this presentation, some of you might be none, and I say good on you. Your relationship keeps struggling along. You always think you are the problem. In conflict, you fight or run. You never seem to be able to talk it out well, largely probably because you're so exhausted, and you often take things personally. So when things go wrong, it's because of you, and he said something because to hurt you, or that was done to annoy you. So during and after the program, obviously what I'm teaching you is to start thinking more positively. Good things start to happen. There's so much research around positive thinking, positive lives, positive minds. You begin to realize you actually have a lot to offer, and so do others. But more importantly, it's about so looking at you and what you offer this world. Can't hear me anymore. Can't hear me anymore. Can anybody just tell me, somebody said I can't hear you anymore. Back now. Okay, back now. Okay, all right, I'll keep going. I can. Can you? Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Thanks, Yvonne. Okay. You have a clear path forward and a plan to get there. And obviously the program isn't going to answer all of the questions to life, but it gives you a really good, solid understanding. You feel stronger in yourself and know somebody's always there when you struggle. You really get your relationship and understand what you have to do to make it better. What I should have actually added in there as well is that you get you. It's about getting you. And so when you get you get your relationship. You realize some of your behaviors are problematic, but not all. Because if your life isn't working, guys, I just want you to think about this, and this is another pearl. If your life isn't working, then you're probably part of the problem. So if you're part of the problem, what are we going to do about changing those areas? And you learn to stand your ground calmly and use emotional intelligence to relate to others better. Emotional intelligence, I think, is a key thing in the world today. If we had more emotional intelligence, we wouldn't be invading countries that don't belong to us. We wouldn't be beheading journalists. We wouldn't be killing the way we do. So it's a whole big, deep issue for me, emotional intelligence. You become more resilient and life becomes a pleasure, not a struggle. So, and the reason why I'm actually saying these things is because for all of the reasons I said at the beginning of this presentation, I've been doing this work for 25 years. And the majority of women I've worked with are sitting on the left-hand side of this ledger. And I have hoped in some way, and certainly in the relationships that I've formed and the programs that I've run, that there has been a really great change and shift in a lot of the women that I've worked with. And that's why I'm so passionate about working with women. In 3 months, well, I've got 3 months actually, but it should be longer. If it's the online, it could be 3 months because you can do it quicker. So, but for the face-to-face, it is a longer program. So the 3 months could be online, but the face-to-face is a longer 10 months to a year. So you go from that to this. So that sense of inner peace, empowerment, resilience, and it's about really, I suppose, gathering yourself towards yourself and really looking at your life and thinking that because of what you've done, you get time to turn your life around, have great relationships around you with a clear focus on the future. So are there any comments at this juncture, ladies? Any question at this moment? It's really strange not to be able to talk to you in terms of actually see you, but never mind. At least you're here with me. So anybody want to ask a question at this stage? No? Okay, there's a question. There's a lot of you on the line, and I just want to say it's absolutely fantastic working with you. There would be probably about 30 of you on the line, and it's just wonderful. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, if there are no questions at this point, then what I will do is I'm going to get into the costing of the program. Okay, so here we go. So there's two programs, and I said, so the programs are, the online is the immediate access. So we've got immediate access, but it's not immediate. Alice and I are finishing uploading it. We had a problem, so it will be available to you from Friday. We worked out that the cost online is normally $2,997. We're going to give it to you at $997, and plus 1 hour coaching. Now the 1 hour coaching I will give you at any stage of the program, or I would recommend that you get the 1 hour coaching after the program has completed. And then the face-to-face is 4 days. It's 4 days face-to-face, 3 online stages. Or we might do it differently. We might do 9 days face-to-face and less online, but it's a combination of face-to-face and online, plus a 1 hour coaching, normally valued at $6,000, and we're giving it to you for $2,997. Now, just with regards to the payment, I appreciate that for some of you, the payment amount might be difficult. So what we are offering you, if you would like, is to do 4 easy payments of $750 over 4 months, if that is something that you would find helpful. So it's a program that has, as I say, worked well, continues to work well. I was just sharing something with Alison, and I won't share the name of the company with you, but I was working with a client yesterday afternoon, and I just happened to mention this particular program, and I'd gone there for another reason. But anyway, long story cut short, they took two of these programs, one to run in Sydney and the other one to run rurally. And the interesting thing, I asked her why, and she said because they haven't seen a program like this that is not focused on women in business, or it's not focused on women, you know, with domestic violence or drug addiction issues. It's more around really kind of gals out there who just need help in life and putting their lives back on track. So what I would ask you to do is, if you are interested, we would love to hear from you. We would like you to send us an email, and the email, I will give you the address. Well, actually the email's on the last slide. I just wanted to say as well that the face-to-face, which we only actually started talking about yesterday morning, I just don't want to do more than 20 each. So 5 spaces have gone, and that was in the space of between yesterday and today. And as I say, the dates will be confirmed, but it'll be end of June, July. So to recap, online 997, face-to-face is 2997, or 4 easy payments. How to commit or pay, we will send you an email about how to sign up and a link to recording if you want to replay. And I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have now. So I'm just having a look. My lovely Alison says you can unmute now if you want to talk. If you want to talk to me, but I can actually. All right. So I have a clear path to get, but I want to learn the emotional intelligence and effective communication. Saturday afternoon is possible for me, but I believe I'm eager to learn, and the program online will be perfect for me. Well, that's absolutely perfect. And also believe, now that's from Rebecca. Rebecca, also remember that if you do the online and if you wanted to spend some time in your coaching session talking a little bit more about those areas that you want more coaching on, you can do that. The other thing is obviously online is that there's a lot of activities and questions and readings for you around emotional intelligence. But if there is more stuff you wanted to learn, just bring it into the coaching session, or at any stage on that program, you're very welcome to email me. So thank you, Rebecca. Anybody else? You're welcome, Rebecca. So tell me what you think about the Saturdays besides Rebecca. Do any of you feel that the Saturdays are a better option than during the week, perhaps? I can see you still there. There's a lot of you there. Can you hear me, guys? There's a lot of you on the line, and I don't seem to be getting questions. And if there's no questions, that's fine. I won't keep you. But I thought I just wanted to. Any questions? Yeah, and if you do have any questions, you can also email me. So that's my email address, karen@karenwalsh.com.au. The website, the Karen Walsh website, we're actually changing, but there is some information there about it. We're actually having a new website design. But if you wanted to just talk to me, karen@karenwalsh.com.au. I've got something here. Great to see what you do, Magic Lady, to empower women. Sometimes we need a crutch to help us when our legs get tired, or we cannot walk on our own legs because you need to regain our strength. Yeah, that's so true. You know, well, it's an interesting question or interesting statement. I'll tell you why. One of the women who I've worked with before with this program, she was saying to me, even Karen, if I had this information, I would have found it difficult, or if I had sort of information, we weren't talking about the online. She said, I still wanted to do it with somebody. I wanted somebody to actually take me through the program. So whether it's online, it's a structured, systematic way of working, I guess. But she said that I really want somebody walking it with me. So I think that you make a really good comment there about the legs and the, you know, you need, the point is that a lot of women, if they could have become empowered on their own, they would have. And a lot of women haven't because they don't know how. So this program is about helping women learn how to do it with a structured approach and to have somebody guiding you along the way. But thanks, Celia. I love the way you write. The next question, how long are these offers available, especially online? They're for as long as forever. Yep. They're up there. We're going to be putting some other programs up there, but this program is on for as long as you like.
In your own time.
Yeah, in your own time, because we appreciate that things are difficult. But that's the thing. It's about making sure that you have time for you. Don't leave it until next year. And Celia's gone off to a networking session, so go Celia. But I would really love to hear from all of you. I've got obviously who's on the line now. I'd be able to email you all just to thank you, and then I'll send you the link. But I'd love to have your feedback. I mean, Alison and I would love to know how you felt about the session, whether you thought it was helpful, whether you thought it was, you know, beneficial.
Any comments about the slides?
Yeah, comments about the slides. Any feedback would be just fantastic. So we so welcome your input, and I'm so grateful to have you this evening, and thank you so much for being with us. There were a lot of you on the line, and it's been awesome having you. So thank you so much. And if you want me to give you a call back, just go online here and I'll give you a call back, but it would be great to get an email from you. So I'm signing out now. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening.